This January 23rd, 2018 meeting of the Coralville City Council to order. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Gross.
Here.
Foster.
Present.
Gill. Present. Dodds.
Present.
Goodrich.
Here.
Excellent. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Gill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Gill, second by Goodrich. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Are there any citizen comments? Anybody in the audience who wishes to say something that is not on the agenda, please come up, state your name, write in your address, and speak loud for our wide television audience, please.
Hi, my name is Howard Horan. I represent the board of the Coralville Community Food Pantry. Just giving you a periodic update. We do have numbers for the entire year of 2017. It looks like we served about 9,800 family visits. The total families was about 4,300. Total individuals, about 14,900. And it looks like we distributed some 296,000 pounds of food. So whatever's happening, we're certainly doing it. And we thank you very much for your support. And on we go. Our next challenge, of course, is to find another place to do our business. And we look forward to staying ahead of that as that plan comes up for you guys. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Any others?
Good evening. My name is Zach Walls, and I'm a candidate for the Iowa State Senate to succeed Senator Bob Dvorsky. I've had several conversations with some Coralville city officials, and I'm looking forward to meeting with several more. Just here to introduce myself and say hi, and I'm excited to continue to learn about the issues facing Coralville and everything else that's happening in our community. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. Yes, you go ahead. Yep.
I'm Steve Merkel. I sent an email out to Mayor Lundahl, I think just right after December 4th when the recycling center opened. I live in that neighborhood, and I just was here tonight, and I think I chatted with Mitch briefly today at West High. We're both West High employees. And I'd like to start by saying I've lived in Coralville for 20 years. I've been totally impressed at everything that's happened over those years. And I just am amazed at how awesome everything usually turns out. And when I saw the recycling center, I have to say I was a little shocked. They came in and one day, ripped up some sod, laid some gravel. Is it temporary?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I didn't know that. And it also, I would like to bring to attention, I sent Mitch some pictures. It seems like the trucks roll in, dump everything, and drive away. And then the waste is blowing all over the neighborhood. If you just want to take 5 minutes and walk from the recycling center down to the fence line about a block away to my house, it's filling up with trash. I know it's a little bit of a messy neighborhood due to some of the people that live there that don't pick up after themselves too frequently. I've tried to spend the last 20 years cleaning it up every spring, but it's going to be a busy job this spring if the city's landfill or recycling center keeps blowing the way it is. And I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't really have a written speech or anything. Maybe you all can get a chance to look at some pictures that I sent Mitch. And that's, guess why I stopped in today. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And I will, Steve just sent those about an hour or so ago, so I'll forward those on just to you. Any other comments from the audience? All right, let's move to item A. Kevin? Public hearing?
Yep.
I will open the public hearing on the plans, specifications, and estimate of cost in form of contract for the First Avenue Improvement Project, 6th Street to 9th Street. Any comments on that from the public? I will close the public hearing. The resolution, please.
Resolution approving the plan specifications, estimate of cost, and form of contract for the First Avenue improvements, 6th Street to 9th Street. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Foster, seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 6, Clear Creek Trail Phases 6 and 7. Public hearing. I open the public hearing on plan specifications, estimate of cost, and form of contract for the Clear Creek Trail Phases 6 and 7. Any comments from the public on that issue? I will close the hearing. Kevin, the resolution, please.
Resolution approving the plan specifications, estimate of cost, and form of contract for the Clear Creek Trail Phases 6 and 7. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Dodds. Discussion?
Yeah, just one thing, Mayor Pro Tem, if, Scott, if you could just give an update on both projects, First Avenue and Clear Creek, on the schedule, just so the public knows when those will be happening.
Right, on both the First Avenue project and the Clear Creek Trail project, those projects were, had an Iowa DOT letting back on January 17th. We know who the apparent low bidders are, but we have to wait for the DOT to send us their concurrence documents, and then we review those, and then we'll take formal action to award both of those contracts, probably at your first meeting in February. Schedule-wise, once those contracts have been awarded, we will immediately follow with pre-construction meetings with the appropriate contractors. In both cases, the projects are expected to begin as early as March, if we have a mild March, but certainly by April. First Avenue, 6th to 9th Street will be under construction for essentially this entire construction season, running into late November, early December. But we do expect all lanes to be open by the end of this construction season. And final landscaping items and minor items will be completed in the spring of 2019. On the trail project, kind of the same story. We expect the trail construction to be complete this construction season. We're hoping to be able to open up the trail to the public. However, we are kind of sending out the warning that with the upcoming 8380 interchange project by the Iowa DOT, there will be times when the trail will have to be closed. The dates and the durations of those closures are yet to be determined.
Is that 12 to 18 months
For the
trail?
Well, if they get started in March or April, we really would expect most of it to be done in the November, December timeframe. So,
What was the total number of crossings and bridges?
There
It
was
was
a
pretty
lot.
significant.
there are 2 bridges across Clear Creek and then 1 major culvert on the trail project. So, it's probably 7 underpasses of the interstate bridges. That's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
the trail will actually go underneath Interstate 80 and underneath Interstate 380 as well.
So for those home, this is what will connect Clear Creek with
Yep.
Tiffin.
Yep, it's by far possibly the most complicated trail project we've had. So, be fun to watch.
Any other discussion? Kevin? Resolution, please.
I think I introduced that, or did we already vote on that?
No.
Okay. Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 7, Coral Ridge Avenue Improvement Project Phase 2. Kevin, the resolution. A.
Resolution approving a 28E agreement with the City of North Liberty regarding the construction of the Coral Ridge Avenue Improvements Phase 2. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Dodd, seconded by Foster. Discussion. Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Letter B.
Resolution accepting bids and awarding the construction contract for the Coral Ridge Avenue Improvements Project Phase 2. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Goodrich, seconded by Dodds. Discussion.
Yeah, just a reminder, this was the second time this was bid because of the issues that we had, and so we do appreciate the contractor's efforts and for them willing to be rebid. And a side note was that it did come in lower than the first time it was bid, which was nice, but we just do appreciate all the work that the contractors put into this. And similarly, Scott, do you want to give a schedule for the public on this as well?
Right. With the award of the contract tonight, we are expected to have the pre-construction meeting as early as next week. So that'll get all the construction team together. And we would expect activity to begin also in March with work primarily around the Oakdale Boulevard intersection to start with. Initially, Coleridge Avenue traffic will continue as is, north-south, one lane each direction from Oakdale north to Forever Green. As we get later into the spring, there will be a time when Coleridge Avenue is actually detoured using Oakdale Boulevard to Cross Park Road to Wheaton Road to allow the section of Coleridge Avenue from the north side of Oakdale Boulevard all the way up to Wheaton Road intersection to be completely closed to traffic, allowing the contractor to build all of that without the usual hassles of maintaining traffic. So we expect that to assist us in accelerating the completion of the overall project. This project is also on that same schedule. Get started March, April, get all lanes open by the end of this construction season, so in the mid-November, late November timeframe, with final landscaping and minor items completed in the spring of 2019.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item C.
Resolution approving the contract and bond documents for the Coleridge Avenue Improvements Project Phase 2. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Foster, seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 8, lots 1 and 2 and 3, Coralville Industrial Park, number 2. Kevin, the ordinance.
Ordinance number 2018-1002, an ordinance amending the Coralville zoning ordinance, the same being ordinance number 664 as previously amended, rezoning certain property located within the corporate limits of the city of Coralville, Johnson County, Iowa, and generally known as a portion of Lot 1 and all of Lot 2, Coralville Industrial Park number 2, 6th edition from I-3, General Industrial District to IPD2 Industrial Planned Unit Development 2 District. This ordinance introduced for third and final consideration by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Goodrich. Discussion. Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Letter B. Kevin?
Resolution approving the amended PUD site plan for lots 1, 2, and 3, Coralville Industrial Park number 2, 6th edition, Coralville, Iowa. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Dodds, seconded by Foster. Discussion. Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye. Item 9, Iowa River Landing Northeast Parcel. Kevin, the resolution, please.
Resolution of support of the application of IRL Parkview Investments LLC for funding via the Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program and pledging city monies for the same. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Goodrich, seconded by Dodds. Discussion. Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item 11, 811 East 2nd Avenue, 755 East 2nd Avenue, and
We have
216.
number 10.
Oh, number 10. My apologies. Sorry about that. Ellen, I was just giving you time to get up there.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm getting kind of old and slow.
I didn't say that. Item 10, Iowa River Landing Marketing. Ellen, Assistant City Administrator, do you have a proposal report for us?
I do. We requested proposals for marketing in the Iowa River Landing on December 13th. They were due on January 4th, and we received 6 proposals. They were scored, and De Novo of Cedar Rapids averaged 56 of 60 points, and so we recommend awarding the contract to De Novo. They would begin work February 1st. They've already had a transitional meeting with Brand Driven Digital.
Excellent, thank you. Kevin, the resolution.
Resolution accepting proposals and awarding an agreement for digital marketing service for the Iowa River Landing District. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Foster, seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Now item 11. 811 East 2nd Avenue, 755 East 2nd Avenue, and 216 East 9th Street demolitions.
Yes, I have the quotations here. We solicited quotations for last Tuesday. We received 3 quotations and the lowest responsive bidder was from CAJ Enterprises, which is Chris Jones Trucking, for $83,300. They were $30,000 lower than the next lowest bid and $60,000 lowest than the third lowest bid. Chris Jones Trucking has done demolitions from the flood over in 10th Avenue and some in the Iowa River Landing, so we've had good luck with them. We recommend approval of the contract to CAJ Enterprises for $83,300.
Resolution.
Resolution accepting quotation and awarding a contract for the demolition agreements for 811 East 2nd Avenue, 755 East 2nd Avenue, and 216 East 9th Street. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Goodrich. Discussion.
Yes, they'll begin the demolitions on this. Will start on February 7th and will be completed by the end of February.
And will that impact traffic at all, or?
It will not. They will all be off the road.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 12, rental occupancy ordinance. Kevin, the resolution, please.
An ordinance.
Or the ordinance, my bad. Sorry.
Ordinance number 2018-1001, an ordinance amending Chapter 145 of the Code of Ordinances regarding rental housing occupancy. This ordinance introduced for third and final consideration by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Dodd, seconded by Goodrich. Discussion. Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Ordinance passed, third and final consideration. Item 13, the audit report. At this point, we'll have a presentation from our audit from Hogan Hansen to present the fiscal year 2017 audit report. Welcome.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening. My name's Steve Duggan. I'm the managing partner at Hogan Hansen in our Waterloo office. Again, I want to thank the city for the opportunity to conduct the annual audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2017. Pleased to report we didn't have any difficulties in completing the audit. Tony and his staff are very accommodating and do a very good job when we're here and helping us to get that audit completed in a timely manner. And anytime we have suggestions for improvements or to do things maybe a little differently from a documentation standpoint, they're always very receptive to those ideas and take pretty quick action to implement those recommendations. So kudos to those folks. Once again, the opinion on the financial statements is an unmodified opinion, which means the statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. That is the highest level of a opinion that you can receive on your financial statements. Citywide cash balances during the year decreased approximately $5.7 million. However, much of that can be attributed to capital project fund expenditures where you have a timing difference between when the money is spent for the project and when you receive grant funds or issue bonds for those projects. The flood mitigation capital project fund, for example, had expenditures in excess of revenues of approximately $5.9 million during the year. So there's a real timing difference, particularly in that fund, between when you expend the money and when you have revenue sources to reimburse you for that. The general fund is the chief operating fund of the city, and the majority of the expenditures in the general fund are for payroll. General fund expenditures for the year totaled $19.2 million, which was really about the same as it was a year ago. So the general fund expenditures were managed right in line with the budget. The unrestricted fund balance for the general fund ended the year at $9.6 million. Comparing that to the general fund expenditures shows that the general fund balance is approximately 50% of your annual expenditures within the general fund. Another way to think of that is you have about 6 months of expenditures available in the general fund balance. So that's an indication of a very healthy, very stable general fund balance. The city continued several improvement projects during the year for the infrastructure and to purchase new equipment, totaling approximately $21.4 million. Also during the year, the city refinanced about $100 million of debt to take advantage of lower interest rates. And by the end of the year, then, the total outstanding debt for general obligation, TIF revenue, and the revenue bonds within the enterprise funds was $11 million less than it was the year before. Lastly, because the city expended more than $750,000 of federal funds under grants, we're required to perform additional compliance testing. And I'm pleased to report the results of those tests indicated no instances of non-compliance with respect to the laws and regulations required under the Department of Transportation funding that was used for First Avenue projects. Any questions that you might have about the financial statements or the audit in general?
I just have one comment that I think we could all help with is, and you can confirm this, I noticed that one of the little glitches was people who had received checks from the city had not cashed them in a timely manner, and that's just a pain, as anyone knows, in their budgeting system. So maybe we can all do that.
Right, and the city staff are on top of that, trying to monitor that. There is a certain time period you've got to get those checks cashed. Generally, what you do, you wait a certain amount of time and then try and contact that vendor, or sometimes it's even an employee in the city who hasn't cashed an expense reimbursement. Try and get those folks to cash that check or maybe reissue them another one before the law in Iowa requires you to turn that money over to the state treasurer, and then they attempt to find the vendor via the Great Iowa Treasure Hunt. So the staff is on top of that and trying to do their best.
Also for the public, the audit report is available at coralville.org, or you can check out a hard copy at the Coralville Public Library. Any other questions for Steve? Great, Steve. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Item 14, our favorite moment of the year, of the fiscal year anyway. 2019 budget presentation. Is this the full report, Tony, tonight?
It is.
So for those that did a New Year's resolution at home, you can do 10 push-ups every time you hear rollback and 10 sit-ups every time you hear backfill.
Yes, and you get the double benefit of hearing about the audit for last year and the budget for the coming year in the same meeting. And believe me, I know what a treat that is. So each year we kind of walk through a presentation on the upcoming year's budget at this point in the process. At the end, we'll talk about additional steps and the calendar moving forward, but I'll just mention them at the outset too, in case anybody's wondering about that out there on TV. And so tonight is a budget presentation. The first part of February, the Coralville Connection will come out. It'll have a budget article in it. February 13th will be the next step at a council meeting, which is a public hearing on the budget. February 27th is the planned date for council adoption at that meeting. And then on or before the 15th of March, the budget has to be filed with the county and the state. So this is a budget for the fiscal year 2019, which begins on July 1st, 2018, and goes through June 30th, 2019. The budget highlights goals and challenges. The proposed property tax rate remains unchanged at $13.5277 per thousand of taxable value. That's this will be the 9th consecutive year at that tax rate. There's a proposed wastewater or sewer rate increase for the improvements to the sewer plant, and a proposed stormwater rate increase to continue to fund operations and projects in that enterprise. And we'll talk more about each of those further on. So the goals of this budget are to pass a balanced budget where revenues and expenditures are equal, to maintain the property tax rate maintain sufficient fund balances, all while providing high-quality public services. And the challenges are the same in some ways for a local government as a business or a household, generally rising costs, provision of services at economical costs, and planning for future needs. So a little bit about property taxation in Iowa. Property in Iowa is categorized into classes. There are 6 classes, used to be 5, but now they're, since FY17, is a multi-residential class. Growth limitations are imposed on each of those classes to eliminate dramatic tax shifts between classes, and that limitation in growth and equalization is accomplished through a rollback. So the rollback on from assessed value to taxable value changes each year, potentially in every class. The residential rollback moved 1.32% down for FY19 versus FY18. Multi-residential moved 3.75% down. That one, the multi-residential, is on a stair-step statutory codified decrease each year till it is equal to the residential. So it's stair-stepping down towards roughly 55%. Commercial, it did not change. Industrial did not change, and ag went up. The impact on residential property of the rollback is that a property assessed at $100,000 in both FY18 and 19 would see a decrease in its taxable value of $1,313, and with an equal tax rate in both years, would then see an annual tax paid to the city decrease by $17.83. The rollback's impact to commercial property is no different in FY19 than 18 because it did not change. So this slide gives a little bit of a history lesson on the commercial property tax reform legislation of 2013. You might say, that sounds like it's about 5 or 6 years ago versus the FY19 budget. Why would we care? Well, that's back when they rolled back commercial and industrial property valuation from 100% to 90%. And the legislation at the time provided a non-sunsetting standing appropriation in the state budget for a backfill amount to make local governments, cities, counties, schools, et cetera, whole from the impact of that legislation. Those backfill funds go into the general fund and pay for things like police, fire, parks, rec programs, the debt service fund, the TIF funds, and the employee benefits fund. Those are important, an important source of revenue for the city. So a little bit about the city property tax levy. It is composed of 5 different levies for the city of Coralville, and they're listed there. We have a slide that describes them, and if you want to do a little more reading on this, any part of this presentation, it will be linked on the website in the finance budget section of coralville.org. But some of the levies are limited as to rate. Some of them are limited as to the use allowed for the funds generated through that levy, and some are limited as to both, and they vary. So the city property tax levy rates are listed on this slide. The reason city is underlined is because this is not the entire tax rate for a Coralville taxpayer. There are the school and the county and some other levy authorities as well. But you'll notice from this table that the total levy amount in terms of the tax rate is the same in FY19 and 18. Things moved around a little bit in terms of one levy versus the other, and some of that, that really is a result of the TIF release from the Mall Highway 6 TIF that we'll talk about in a minute here. So the total property tax bill for a Coralville resident living in that part of Coralville that is in the Iowa City School District would look like this. At least this is our projection at the current time. It includes the City of Coralville's proposed tax rate for FY19 and the actual FY18 tax rates for the other bodies, because we don't know yet how they're setting their budget for sure. So this gives you an idea of the proportion of the tax bill that goes to the City of Coralville. Here's a pie chart of that same information. So you can see that basically the Iowa City Community School District and the City of Coralville are each about 38 or 39%, so a little over a third each, and then the county and other levies, including Kirkwood Community College, make up the rest. So let's talk a little bit about the general fund, the city's chief operating fund. The revenue sources for the general fund are property and hotel motel tax, licenses and permits, interest, rental income, intergovernmental proceeds like grants or contracts between governments, charges for services like recreation fees, and then other financing sources like borrowings or interfund transfers. The estimated revenue for FY19 for the general fund is projected at $27.484 million, which is about a 19.8% increase from FY18, largely due to the mall TIF release. And that revenue is used for all kinds of things paid out of the general fund, from public safety like fire and police, animal control, to health and social service programs, culture and recreation, including library, and economic development, community development, the costs of general government, and contingencies against unforeseen events. So here's a listing of the general fund revenues and a proportion of the budget that they comprise down the middle. So you can see property and excise taxes are the largest. Other financing sources, charges for services, hotel motel tax, those are the largest ones. And we have departmental budgets, park and rec, police, fire, animal control, and they're listed here from highest percent of the budget to lowest percent. So a little bit about the mall TIF release. Large portions, both in valuation and geographic terms of the mall TIF, are going to release in FY19. So for Coralville, there's an increase in general fund revenues, decrease in revenues to the combined Mall Highway 6 TIF fund. And this release has been a known event that's been planned for in both the general fund and the TIF fund, and in terms of debt structure and repayment plans. For other local area governments, it will represent an increase in their property tax revenues. For schools, the funding formula puts all that together and basically allows a set dollar amount per pupil for education. But for county or Kirkwood or others, there's an increase in their general fund resources. So a little bit about the special revenue funds of the city. These are funds where the revenues can only be used for certain purposes, like the streets or road use tax fund. So the state allocates to cities road use taxes based on the last official census, and we have 18,907 population in that census. So the estimate from the DOT for the FY19 year is $121.50 per capita. So we have a little under $2.3 million in estimated revenues for the streets fund. And then those revenues and resources will get used in this proposal in this manner. So roadway maintenance is the largest category, street lighting, traffic safety and signalization, snow removal, engineering, street cleaning, and there are some miscellaneous uses as well. So a little bit about the enterprise funds at the city. These are business-type enterprises where you expect to have user fees that recoup at least a large portion of the cost of providing a service. Public transit, water, solid waste, and parking are enterprises where we're not proposing a rate increase or a user fee increase. But there is a proposed rate increase for the sewer enterprise and for the stormwater enterprise. So within the sewer enterprise, we're proposing that the current minimum fee per month be raised from $11.15 to $12.50, and that the additional usage or volume charge per 100 cubic feet of metered water usage be increased from $3.60 to $4. So then below, there's a bar chart that shows the impact on per month on a typical 3-bedroom house, and this is sort of a house size for residences that the wastewater industry likes to utilize. So you'll notice the $3.60 in terms of the current monthly rate for volume is the $7.20 below in the bar, and the $4 volume charge is the $8 amount below, because the assumption is there would be, for this typical 3-bedroom house, the minimum fee plus 200 additional cubic feet of usage. So there's no proposed change in the rate for stormwater use, for stormwater enterprise for residential customers, but there is a proposed rate increase for commercial customers. The current rate formula for commercial properties is $3 each month plus 75 cents per equivalent residential unit. That's an amount of square feet, 3,440 of impervious surface. So that's a way to scale this. So for instance, a mall with a large parking lot pays more than a small strip mall. The proposed rate formula is $3 a month plus $1.40 per ERU. And the purpose is to pay for operations and maintenance of the stormwater pump stations and stormwater projects and improvements necessary throughout the city. Then we have an overview of the enterprise funds, a listing of, in the first column, revenues, and then a listing in the second column of expenditures and transfers out. And so the normal situation that you would expect is that revenues would be greater than expenditures. So that's the case in most of these. In the ones that have an asterisk after their name, like wastewater, let me pick a different example. Solid waste, where expenditures are a little larger, about 60,000 larger than revenues. There's a footnote that talks about how the difference there is due to expenditures funded by reserves. In some cases like transit, it's grants and reserves. And then there's a footnote about wastewater that talks about how the city is raising rates and saving funds for the wastewater treatment plant expansion and improvement project that's expected to be finalized in fiscal year 21, a couple years down the road. A few capital projects included in this this proposed budget, and these will be no surprise to anyone around the front of the room here. First Avenue improvements, the final section from 6th to 9th Street. Coral Ridge Avenue improvements north of Oakdale. The water plant expansion, which is almost finished, but will be financed in FY19. And then the wastewater plant renovation and expansion, which will be financed in fiscal year 21 in terms of final financing. So a little bit again at the tail end of the presentation here about timing and additional information sources. The first one listed is the Connection magazine article, and that'll be on the website soon, I think early February, and in mailboxes around the same time. February 13th, at a regular meeting of the City Council, will be the public hearing on the budget. February 27th, at a regular City Council meeting, is the planned timing for the adoption of the proposed budget, and then it'll be filed with the auditor and take effect on July 1st of 2018. And then there are sources listed at the bottom of this slide to receive additional information. This presentation will be put up at the coralville.org/finance/budget spot, and then at City Hall, at the library, again in the Connection magazine, and on Coral Vision as well. And I'd like to say at this point in the process, thank you to the citizens, city staff and employees, department heads for their work on the budget, city administration, and the mayor and city council for your focus on the budget as well. And I can take any questions or facilitate any discussion that you'd like to have.
Great. Questions or comments for Tony? All right, Kevin, let's do the resolution and set the public hearing, please.
You thought my TIF ordinances were long. Resolution setting a date for the public hearing on the fiscal year 2019 budget. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Goodrich, seconded by Dodds. Discussion?
I'd like to thank the staff and Tony for a good job. It's seamless. It's going along strong.
Pretty good report from the
Very
audit,
good
too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 15, procurement policy changes. Kevin, the resolution.
Resolution approving transit updates to the city's procurement policy. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Foster, seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Motion passes, resolution passes 5-0. Item 16, drug and alcohol policy changes. Kevin, the resolution.
Resolution approving revisions to the city's drug and alcohol policy. This resolution introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Goodrich. Discussion.
You want me to talk?
Please, yeah, if you have discussion, please do. Mr. Funky, we'd love to hear.
Thank you for your attention tonight. This is just putting in some mandated changes into our drug and alcohol policy, and then we also did a lot of housekeeping items on it. We didn't really change the policy other than to clean it up, make it easier to read, and so on. So,
And the mandate changes were the addition of some opioids
Yep.
to
Yep,
the,
we changed
just
the
given
word opiate
the
to
crisis
opioid.
that's going on. And
Yep.
yep. Great.
Thank you.
Questions, comments for Mike, or? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar, items A through CC inclusive.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Dodds. All those in favor say, oops, roll call?
Dodds.
Bad.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
There's always an exception to
Motion
the rule,
passes.
isn't
I
there?
know, I thought I had a flawless meeting. City Administrator's report. Kelly?
Nothing at this time.
Mayor's report. The only thing I would say, just to thank my colleagues here at the table and across the region for coming to yesterday's joint meeting. I thought we had a good discussion on a whole lot of issues. I want to give a special shout out to Sherry, who I thought hit a home run with the best presentation of the meeting. I had lots of folks going up to me afterwards saying they had no clue that we had all those great recreational opportunities. So thanks, Lori, for suggesting that being on the agenda. It was a great, great addition. That's all I've got. City Attorney's report. Kevin?
I just want to say hi to Don. I'm sure he's watching at home. He is recuperating and was told to stay home and stay out of the flu season, and I'm sure he always follows his doctor's directions to the T. So we will see him in 3 weeks, I'm sure.
Excellent. Hope you feel better, Don. Committee and council members report. We'll start. Lori?
Yeah, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Sweet. Jill?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Tom?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Megan?
Well, I just wanted to say welcome back to all of the students with the university, and
at Kirkwood. I actually had to slip out of the joint meeting yesterday because I had to go and teach a class in the evening. And I also wanted to thank all of the staff and volunteers and everybody that helped make Winterfest possible. I attended with one of my children, one that was healthy, because we've had a lot of sickness in our home as well. And I feel like it was one of the most well-attended Winterfest events that we've had. And that was really encouraging to see. I think, I feel like we are seeing more attendance at a lot of our events and a lot of our fests that we are having, and I just think that's really encouraging. I think those are a really important part of our community development efforts, and I just always want to encourage people to get out, meet their neighbors, and connect with folks in as many ways as we can. And yeah, I think it's fantastic that we offer those types of things for our community. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gill, second by Goodrich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. We will be in work session behind us in the back room if anybody would like to join us in the conference room.